Evening, and we welcome you tonight to our Bible study on Wednesday nights, Biblical Christian Ethics, in which we look at a number of principles throughout the Bible that has to do with living the Christian life, living like Jesus, and the principles that we should be adopting and practicing and living every day of our lives is a real challenge that we need to keep ourselves very much aware of these days, and more so today than ever before, because the whole shift of culture today worldwide is away from the things of God. Now that's the bad news. The good news is that the Bible teaches that as we near the end of the age, that that sort of thing is going to be taking place. And so we who believe can look up, for our redemption draws nigh. But meanwhile, while we're here, we're supposed to be living like Jesus, living the Christian life every day. We're looking at this whole matter of covetousness, the principles concerning covetousness. As we've already pointed out, covetousness is sin. That's plain and simple. It is a sin. Jesus tells us the consequences of covetousness. It results in endless and hopeless struggle to preserve possessions that are deteriorating before our very eyes, and we are powerless to stop it. You've noticed that, haven't you? You can go out and buy a brand new vehicle. And boy, that's really nice. First year, you really work real hard to keep that thing washed up every day. Don't let any dust get on it. Don't get to get in the car with dirty shoes or anything like that. You really work hard. And then by the end of a year, it just become almost commonplace. Not too much so. Still trying to keep it looking nice. But as time goes by, it gets more worn, and finally you have to start spending money on it just to keep it up and on the road. And after a while you finally say, well, it's time to get rid of it and get another one. But have you looked at it, how things just go away? They wear out, they break, they deteriorate, they rust, they rot, and so on. It's amazing. No matter what you take a hold of, you can't keep in this life. And that's something we Christians really need to understand. Things in this life are transitory. Why do we want to lay up for ourselves treasures in this world? Rust, moths, all kinds of corruption takes on. Ultimately, they're gone. But we prioritize them in our life. We don't look at them as something that can be used for a little while in a God-honoring way, but rather we look at it more like an idol. We begin to worship it, and it becomes a very important thing in our lives. Proverbs chapter 23, verses 4 and 5, we read these words, "Labor not to be rich." What? Isn't that what we're all supposed to do? How much more money can we make this year than we made last year? You ever notice how money becomes a very important thing of really going after it and making it a very important part of your life? I remember many years ago, but some of you will remember this too, that Amway was a household word that floated around. Everybody was talking about Amway. And talking about it, boy, if you get into Amway, you're going to become rich, you're going to become wealthy, you'll be able to have everything you want, and so on. On and on and on, I kept hearing about this. People would be asking me to come to these meetings and listen to the presentation, this, that, and the other. And I was approached about having a presentation in our own house. And finally, one day, I got tired of hearing all this, said, okay, come over to our house and tell us all about it. Well, when he showed up, he brought umpteen people with him. Okay, fine. So we all sit around in the living room, and he began his presentation. He started with each one and said, what is it that you would need, or you'd like to have, or you'd like to do, or you'd like to possess that you can't right now because you don't have the money? This person said something, and then they moved to the next person. And by the time they got around to me, I was over on the other side of the semicircle. They said, what is it you want? I said, I don't want anything. I got everything I need. He didn't know how to handle that. He tried his best. There's got to be something that you want that you don't have. No, I'm happy with what God's given me. I don't need anything else. But it's interesting how quickly we can chase to be rich. Well, the lottery's up now to $675 million. Wow! Boy, I better go out and get a ticket for that. Did you know you have one chance in 292 million of actually winning that? Yeah, that's all. 292 million to 1 to win that lottery. And yet people line up to do it. And even after all that, and they say, well, we got a winning ticket. So on rare occasions, they never come forth. They probably bought the ticket and died. Maybe one of the reasons why they didn't come forth. And nobody knew that they even had the ticket. But we search for that magical situation that's going to bring us more and more money. Gambling has become an enormous plague across our nation. It's everywhere. People are hoping for the big one. I'll get my house paid for, get my vehicles paid for. Now I'll be able to take a trip around the world. I'll quit my job. I'm going to live comfortably for the rest of my life. Wow. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thy own wisdom. We think in terms that this is wise. It is amazing how many times that we look to ourselves and what we're looking at is not real wisdom at all. It's false. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Wow. Have you ever noticed the studies on those who are out to get rich and to get rich quick? Particularly in the areas of the lottery, you'll find this. Somebody wins. It's a pretty good size, maybe several $1 million. And boy, they think that they're now fixed for life. And tragically, that money flies away. Where did it go? The studies show that those who have won $1 million and above very quickly end up in bankruptcy, no matter how big their winnings is. Again, it's because they don't know how to deal with wealth. The wealth has them. They don't have the wealth. And so very quickly it flies away. God is asking, why would you set your eyes or affections on that which is not permanent and will take wings and fly away? Jesus said, do not lay up for yourselves treasures in this world. Rather lay for yourselves treasures in heaven. They're eternal there. Here's something that we Christians need to recognize what the Scripture says. We Christians are heirs of God. and joint heirs with Jesus Christ. Which simply means this: we have in store for us in the eternal state of heaven, we have in store everything that God and Jesus has, we're entitled to. Man, why do we want all of this junk in this world that you can't hold on to? Why don't we invest in eternity, laying up treasures in heaven? All of that we have to look forward to. It is a fantastic thing when you think about it. Here's a passage in Haggai, chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. Haggai is writing to the people, the Hebrew peoples, who have returned from Babylon after the 70-year captivity there. They were permitted to come back to the homeland, Israel, in the area where Jerusalem was, to come back home. God gave them instructions. The first thing you do when you get back into the land, build me a house. He was referring to a temple. Well, look at that fabulous temple that they had before the Babylonian captivity. It was the world's largest, enormous, most wealthiest structure of the day and time. It would be worth billions upon billions of dollars today, if not approaching $1 trillion, when you consider all the ornamentation and things that was put into that temple in Jerusalem under King Solomon. My, oh my, oh my. All that was gone. God says, I want you to build this next temple first when you get back out of wood. I want you to go to the mountains to get the wood and bring it back and build me a house. Well, they got started on that. And then they got caught up with doing things for themselves, building their own houses, feathering their own nest, making everything according to the way they thought it should be. So Haggai writes about this. He says, you have sown much, plant a lot of seed, and bring in little. You eat, but you have not enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe you or yourself, but there is none warm. They put their focus upon taking care of themselves and their things. Forget about God. What did Jesus say? Seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added unto you. Now the world don't think that way. It says, let's take care of me first. If there's anything left over for God, oh, we'll toss a few coins his way. That's kind of the way we think. But God says, put me first. Here's an interesting fact. If you put God first, you will be utterly amazed of what he will do for you, because you put him first. Well, they have clothing, but they're not even warm. And he that earneth wages to put it in a bag with holes. They don't have, the way that we receive money today. Today we do it digitally, transfers and that sort of thing. But he's talking about in those days, They get their wages. And the first thing you know is they reach into their pocket. Well, where did it all go? Most of us have probably at some time or other said, well, we got the paycheck. Where did it all go? And we think and we think, and we can't quite remember all the places we spent it at. You know, you go to places like Walmart, or virtually any store is doing the same principle. Look at all the things that they got sitting in the aisles or around the cash registers, checkout points, things of that nature. Impulse buying. I need that. Yeah. And you're walking down and say, oh, isn't that beautiful? Boy, I could sure use that. It's amazing how it draws us in. Have you ever noticed this? How many retail stores have you ever been in that have windows in the shopping area? They don't exist. They have created an isolated environment so that when you come in the door, you're under their control to see and focus entirely upon all the multitude of things out there to tempt you to buy. And it works. That's why they do it. That's why they do it. It's amazing. All the things. Wondering what happened to the money we have. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways, your lifestyle. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house. He's talking about his house, the temple. And I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. You look for much, and lo, it comes to little. And when you brought it home, I did blow upon it. When you did bring all the stuff that you managed to get home, and it disappears. It just goes away. It doesn't last. Why, saith the Lord of hosts? Because mine house that is waste, and you run every man unto his own house. That's what happened to Israel when they came back after 7 years of captivity, which they ended up in 70 years of captivity in Babylon because they worshipped all of the idols. You think they'd have learned something, and they come back home. They forgot to put the Lord first in their life. My, oh my. In this passage, God is warning the man that if he puts his heart on riches, then he, God, will simply blow on them, and then we'll see how long they last. It is easy to make riches a god. It controls our lives. Rather than giving it all to God, surrendering it to him, and see what he does for you. How he blesses, how he encourages, how he meets our needs, how he takes care of us. We need to focus upon him. Coveting the things of this life. I want this, I want that, I got to have this, I got to have that. Look at the things we got. Oh, this fine new computer that I just spent $450 for. Talking about a small laptop. In 3 years, it's obsolete. That's built-in obsolescence. You go out and you buy a vehicle. I talked many years ago, I had the opportunity to meet with a General Motors service advisor, and I'm talking about not from a dealership, from General Motors. And we got to talking about their cars. And he candidly said this to me, and this is back in the 70s, 1970s. He said, at General Motors, we engineer our cars to last 7 years. After that, they're going to start falling apart. In those days, a 48-month car payment was typical. Some people had 24 months, some people had 36, but 48-month car payment was typical. So by the time you got the car paid for, you may be able to enjoy it for a year before, well, it's starting to break down. It's called engineered obsolescence. Do you realize that everything in this life has an expectancy to deterioration, as we've already pointed out? On top of that, everything in this life is engineered to come to an end in itself very quickly. My parents had a refrigerator in the house. I grew up with a refrigerator in the house. Spent a couple $100 for a refrigerator. It would last for 25 or 30 or 35 years. About 3 years ago, I spoke with one of the retailers about their refrigerator. And I asked them, what is the life expectancy of a refrigerator? Well, how much you planning on spending one? I said, well, let's talk about a $1,000 refrigerator. And they go up, by the way. And they said 7 years maximum. You see, we have the technology that we can build quality products, but we don't. Because we're covetous. We want more money. And once you are bitten by covetousness and its twin brother greed, oh my, nothing satisfies. No matter how much you get, you need more. You want more. And so on. Very quickly, it controls your life. And God said to ancient Israel, he said, hey, it's not going to last. I'm going to blow on it, and it's going to go quickly. The sin of covetousness always leads to greater sin, that is, depravity. For example, the man who covets his neighbor's wife, and the sin leads into further sin, that is, adultery. The man who covets a large house, car, boat, etc., and begins to embezzle money from the company for which he works in order to acquire those luxuries. It's amazing how quickly it gets a hold of you. It takes control of you. It drives you. It becomes your life. It becomes a god to you. Steps to avoid covetousness. Steps to avoid covetousness. There's a number of them. Here's a few of them right here. View all your material possessions as a means to an end and not as an end in themselves. An example, view your car as a means of transportation, not as a status symbol. What is the hottest car in America today? The SUV, the sport utility vehicle, or the crossover. I look around today and everything is called a sport utility vehicle. I see a subcompact car, at least the size of what a subcompact car used to be, called a sport utility vehicle. And oh my, It's just amazing how we've got abundance of everything, but it all looks the same. I look at the majority of cars I see on the road today, and I say, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of a big ball with four wheels. Take a look at your vehicle or the next time you're driving down the road, and you'll see a lot of these cars. Amazing. And I begin to wonder, when it rolls over, which way does it roll? Anyway, anyhow, how easy it is. Status symbol. We got to keep up with the Joneses. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Whatever your name is, surrender yourself to the Lord and let Him give you what you need, and you'll be surprised how He can give things to you to satisfy you. And you're not in the rat race of chasing this stuff down the road. Yeah. Okay, B. But seek ye first the kingdom of God. Jesus' words, Matthew 6:33. And His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Put God first in your life, and He will take care of you, and you will be happy, you will be fulfilled, you will be at peace, you will be comfortable. And there'll never be a boat anchor around your neck. There'll never be a boat anchor around your neck. C. Luke chapter 12, verse 15. And He said unto them, Jesus is speaking, take heed and beware of covetousness. For as man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesses. See, people hoarding. Did you know that hoarding is a sin? Well, they're saving up for a rainy day. They're stocking up in case something happens. I remember this one individual that was on the news a number of years ago. Lived in the Pittsburgh area. His house caught on fire. The fire department was called. And of course, they want to know if there's anybody in the house. And they said, as far as we know, there's only one person that lives in the house. So that's probably all that's in there is one person. So they have to break down the door because it's locked. And as soon as they break the door down, they find that as far as their eye can see throughout the hallways and every part of the house that they could see in, stuff was stacked up chest high. And they called out, and they heard the fella yelling somewhere back in the house, help! I'm stuck back here. I can't get out. He died before they could get to him. Hoarding. Be careful with hoarding. It's a form of covetousness. Yeah. Man's life does not consist in the abundance of things which he possesses. They can capture you, and they will dictate to you your abundance of things, of what you shall do and how you shall live and what you shall spend. And you're imprisoned and don't even realize it. D. And having food and raiment. Raiment here is clothing. Let us be therefore content. 1 Timothy 6:8. Notice it doesn't say have a house. It doesn't say have a car. I said there's a lot of people that's all they have. He's talking about the necessities of life. God will give to us what He can trust us to have. Always remember that. If you got something that you can't let go of, you better learn how to give that to God, because it's got a hold of you. You don't have a hold of it. You think you do, but it's controlling you. Let's give ourselves and our things to God. It'll take the stress and the strain of our life off. It really will. Well, time has come and time has gone.